Welcome to another episode of Dad Up, everyone. Thank you guys very much for joining me. I'm excited for the individual that I have on today. Guys, got a lot of stuff going on. Just released a book for all you dads out there. Happy Father's Day. Go ahead and pick up the book. We're going to talk about it in this episode, but my good friend Christopher Brown has joined me on Dad Up. Welcome to the show, Christopher.
Thanks a lot, Brian. I'm honored to be here and talking with you today and the dads listening and watching.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to talk about your book. I want to talk about National Fatherhood Initiative. I want to find out how I can get involved in National Fatherhood Initiative. I'm excited to talk about all those things. But before we do that, I want to know a little bit more about you. So let's get a backstory on Christopher.
Yes, that sounds good. So, my name is Christopher Brown. I'm president of National Fatherhood Initiative. I've been with the organization since the year 2000 and been president since 2013. I'm a father. I'm a father of two grown girls, 31 and 28. I'm also a grandfather of a 2-year-old granddaughter, and just found out that her parents are expecting a second
Oh, cool.
baby that will probably be due around Thanksgiving. So I've started my grandfathering journey. So that's been an incredible, experience. I live just outside of the Austin, Texas, with my wife Kayla. We've been married for 33 years now, and just enjoying this season of our lives. Caring for our granddaughter and soon-to-be second grandchild.
Oh,
What's
no.
really wonderful is that our kids live only a couple miles away from us, so we get to spend a lot of time with them.
That's
I'm
awesome.
an anthropologist by training, and so I've really dedicated myself, and maybe we'll get into a little bit of my backstory, but I've dedicated myself to helping as many children as possible grow up with an involved, responsible, and committed father in their lives, because I did not have one growing up, and so that's really motivated me to dedicate my life to this work.
Can you talk a little bit about National Fatherhood Initiative? I know it's an awesome nonprofit that you guys have been pushing for a while now, and not only that, I know that you've spoken about the fact that you guys have got this going in Washington, D.C., where you have a lot of Republicans and Democrats that are kind of supporting what you guys are pushing. So, can you talk a little bit about National Fatherhood Initiative?
Absolutely. So we are a national nonprofit. We're the most significant organization in the country that's focused on promoting responsible and involved fatherhood in communities. So we started in 1994, and we started, Brian, because there were a group of scholars who recognized that there was this growing body of research that was being done that showed that fathers are unique and irreplaceable in the lives of children. And
Mm.
they were responding to what at the time had been a rapid rise in the proportion of children growing up in this country without an involved father in their lives. And so that number reached about 1 in every 3
Mm.
children in this country by 1995. The good news is that trend leveled off, and we've actually started to see a reverse in that trend.
Mm.
So for the first time in 34 years, we now have more children growing up in a home with a present father. When we say present father, we're talking about a physically present father who's either a biological step or adoptive father. So
Mm.
over the years, Brian, we've evolved from doing a lot of work on the public advocacy side of things, where we brought together Republicans and Democrats in Washington, D.C., to get this issue on the nation's agenda. That resulted in millions of dollars of funding that has been provided to local programs since 2005 to start fatherhood programs that help dads really learn how to be the most involved father that they could possibly be. So we've evolved as an organization from a business model perspective to one that is focused primarily on building the capacity of human service organizations in communities that work directly with fathers and families. So we don't serve fathers directly ourselves. And when fathers come to us for assistance, we typically refer them back to one of our partners in or near their community. We have partners in every state, every major urban area in the country that uses our evidence-based and evidence-informed fatherhood programs and other resources to help their staff understand, how do you effectively work with fathers and get them engaged in the lives of their children.
Wow. Wow. I mean, I mean, that's awesome. The fact that you guys have got that kind of, I guess, structure, foundation built to and been around that long to really help change what we have seen over the last couple of decades when it comes to fatherhoods and the lack of a father in the home. And reversing that trend is awesome. I think it's something that, I mean, I've had this podcast now for 6.5 years. And I can say just in the times that the years over the years that I've had this podcast, I've seen just a reverse in just the presence of dads around their kids. I'm seeing more active fathers. And I know that, just being a dad is one thing, but being an active present dad is something that's completely different. And I've seen more active present fathers pop up or come up, or should I say that level increase in the last 6.5 years that I've had this show. So,
Yeah, and,
um,
and let me speak to that a little bit too,
yeah.
Brian. Right, but because I've been doing this work for over 30 years, and when I came into this work, it was really difficult to get human service organizations in communities to understand the importance of involved fathers. So, what we have in our country, and we built a very strong structure for this, is a focus around maternal and child health, which is really important. But what we've done in building that infrastructure is we've left fathers out of the equation.
Hmm.
So a lot of these organizations are not doing what we call or using what we call a whole family approach or model. So we come in and we help them understand, in addition to working with mom, work with dad, because that's what children need. They need a mother and a father to be as involved in their lives as possible. Research is really clear on that. When children grow up with both an involved mother and father in their lives, they tend to do much better on a range of physical, social, emotional, and intellectual outcomes compared to children who grow up without an involved father in their lives. So
Mhm.
that's really important. And so, one of the things I can say and that I'm really excited about, Brian, is the fact that we're starting to see the human service infrastructure in our country change and grow and expand to include fathers so that there's no longer a question about whether fathers are important. It's a question about, well, exactly how do you work with fathers as opposed to mothers, because it's a different thing. So, for example, and this is kind of a long way to get to the point that you just made, where I want to draw a connection, is is men are raised in our country and in many cultures around the world, frankly, to look at help-seeking behavior as a weakness. In other
Mhm.
words, it means you're
Yeah.
less of a man when you reach out for help. But what we're seeing now, and the research is backing this up with surveys in recent years, is that younger generations of fathers, the Gen Zs and the millennials who are having kids now, they see being a good father is much more central to their identity as a person. So
Hmm.
they're seeing, fathering beyond its role and how it helps shape how they feel about themselves. And so they're much more willing to reach out and look for that as assistance and help. They're doing things like demanding more in terms of work-life balance from their employers. And I've started to see a growing sort of network of dads like you who come from all walks of life, who are starting podcasts, they're starting blogs, they're starting support groups in their communities, because dads are finally realizing that it's important to reach out for that help. And it's
Mhm.
okay. It's actually a sign of strength in that you are a strong man when you are willing to reach out for that help, especially if it's going to benefit your family.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm a big advocate, promoter of help when you need it, and I'm not afraid to ask for help when I need it. And I mean, it goes even as far as you know, seeing a therapist. I know a lot of dads that even when it comes to their own marriage are don't want to seek therapy if there's something going on in the marriage that needs additional help. They don't want to
Mhm.
seek that therapy because, like you said, they feel like they failed at something. And the last thing dads want is to feel like they failed. Trust me, I've felt
Mhm.
the way that way myself. But seeking help, whether it's in this area here or whether it's in your relationships or whether it's in your business, seeking help is one of the most important tools that dads can learn to do. And when they do that, it changes who they are as a person. It helps them grow. It helps them develop, helps them become better in those areas that they seek the help. So I think it's really great, and I love hearing what you just said. I think yeah, I do think it's great. You're going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say that the most significant and dynamic change that we see a National Fatherhood Initiative with fathers is when they come together and go through the support groups that we help organizations and communities start using our evidence-based programs like the 24/7 Dad program and the Inside Out Dad program for incarcerated fathers. The change that they go through is dramatic because for many of these dads, Bryan, this is the first time that they've been able to enter into an environment with other men where it's a safe space for them to learn and exchange information about being a better dad. So it's not just that they're exchanging what men typically exchange in social networks, which is material goods and also knowledge about things like jobs and how to do things like build things or whatever sports, but now it opens them up to being feeling safe about sharing and being emotionally intimate with other men. Because one of the things that we don't do a very good job of in raising our boys is to teach them that it's okay to be emotionally intimate with other men. In fact, that's a critical piece of growing into a healthy man is
Mm.
learning how to open up and be transparent with other men.
Yeah. I know in my life, when we, I know in my life, I grew up with a dad who has been around. My parents are still married to this day. Uh, my parents were very affectionate and those sorts of things. However, in my life, they weren't involved. I played a lot of sports growing up. I was in a lot of activities, but I can count on one hand, Christopher, how many times they actually came to a sporting event, a parent-teacher conference, an open house, a field trip. It just didn't happen. And it's not a knock on my parents. They had a lot of things going on where they were, they had they worked a couple of jobs. I mean, things like that. They were blue collar workers, things like that, where they had to provide for the family. My sister and myself, they had to provide, and so they felt that they needed to, because they had to provide. They worked a couple jobs at a time. My mom worked three jobs at a time. She worked two jobs and had a cleaning service that she used to run. So I mean,
Well, and
so
that's interesting you mentioned that, Bryan, because when we say involve fatherhood, that comes with a caveat, and that is it looks different for every
mhm,
single father. So how you're involved,
mhm,
and some of that centers around the quantity of time you spend with your children and the quality of time. And my hope and my guess for you growing up was that your father and your mother, when they did spend time with you, it was quality time,
mhm,
and it was enriching time. And those were the moments where you learned lessons and they taught you morals and values.
mhm,
Whereas I came from a situation where my father and mother were together. They were married until I was a senior in high school, but they had a horrible marriage, and my father just basically refused to be involved with my brother or with me. He was more focused in shaping us in his image
mhm,
than he was about helping us to find our own paths and our own interests. And so my parents eventually divorced, which, I am an incredible proponent for married fatherhood. But, marriages must be strong and healthy in order to help children thrive. And my parents was not that. So it did me a world of good when my father moved out of the house. And so, there are different things that can drive us, to help other fathers. Some individuals like you, Bryan, are coming at it from the perspective that you had a good father. Your parents are still married. They obviously, love each other and care about each other. They set that good blueprint for you. And so that's driven you to help other dads. Whereas there are dads like me who come from an opposite situation who are also driven to do the same thing.
Hmm. Yeah, and we learn from those our own story, right? We learn from our own story growing up and how we want to be towards our own kids and shape them. And another area, like you had mentioned earlier, was about reaching out to other men and being emotionally connected with other men. And that's another way for us dads to learn from each other is to be emotionally connected with other dads that you'd like to inspire to be like. Um, I find it interesting that you guys are also involved in you said the in-out program with incarcerated dads.
Yes,
I think it's awesome. I think it's great. Can you talk a little bit about that? I want to hear more about that because
you bet.
it's a very important part, a very important piece to what we're talking about here, in that the absent father the kids with the absent father tends to have a little bit more trouble growing up, and I think for incarcerated dads, that can be particularly tough, especially when they're trying to learn from their mistakes, change, and become better so that way they can be involved. So let's talk a little bit about the In-Out program.
Yeah, so the program is called Inside Out Dad, and it's the most widely used parenting program in correction settings. It's designed specifically for fathers. And it's evidence based, which means that research has shown that it is effective at developing what we call pro fathering knowledge, attitudes, and skills that we know are critical to being an involved father. What makes Inside Out Dad different from our other programs that are run in community organizations with dads who aren't incarcerated is that it's designed, one, to help dads connect with their families uh, while they're in prison and have
Mhm.
as a high quality relationship with their families as possible. Because what research shows is that when that happens, when dads transition out into their community again, the lives of their families, what happens is that they're much less likely to recidivate, meaning that they're much less likely to get rearrested and go back to prison. So that family connection is important. But the
Mhm.
second part of it is that it helps them to learn about the issues that most incarcerated fathers face upon reentry. So, for example, when incarcerated fathers come back into the lives of their families, because of the time that they've been away, there are sometimes other men who have entered into the lives of their children. It may be a new husband, it may be a boyfriend, it may be a number of other individuals who've kind of stepped in while that father was away to help raise their children. And they have to navigate those relationships.
Right.
That's in what the dads listening and watching may not realize is that 92% of all parents in prison are dads.
Mhm.
So all the parents in the prison system in the U.S., 92% are dads, and so that's why a program designed specifically for the issues that affect fathering and how involved a father you are in that setting is really important to implement. We also are now working with a company that has a software program that's put on tablets. So one of the things we've seen in the correctional environment, Bryan, in terms of delivering programming, is the use of tablets. And this helps inmates connect with their families through video calls and phone calls and that kind of thing. So we have just in the last several months implemented programming on those tablets, And we're now seeing those programs used in over 1,100 facilities in the country. And so it's a really quick, fast way to get some of this really important information into the hands of fathers.
Ah, man, that's awesome. I get emotional just thinking about it because I mean, 1,100 facilities, and you guys are impacting dads and changing the way that they have, I guess, come up in their own lives and learning from their mistakes and wanting to change to be better for their kids is awesome. So kudos to you guys for doing that. I think it's great.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Um, I want to talk a little bit about your most recent book. It's just come out. Let's talk about it. Let's share it. I do have some questions about it, but
Good.
it just came out. So for all the dads out there, make sure you guys go pick up his book. But let's talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, so the book is called The 24/7 Dad 12 Habits of Confident Fathers. And what it does is it focuses on building 12 habits that connect to the six characteristics that we see cross culturally mark good fathers, those being self awareness,
Mhm.
self care,
Mhm.
fathering skills, parenting skills, relationship skills, and stewardship. So there are two habits, Bryan, for each of those characteristics. So, for example, for self-awareness, the two habits are working with an accountability partner and
Mhm.
also reflecting weekly on your fathering actions. And so
Mhm.
those kind of form the foundation for building the rest of the habits as well as those characteristics. And so
Oh,
the book is very research based. So
okay.
just like the work that we do at National Fatherhood Initiative, everything in the book is backed by solid research about what we now know is really effective in building good, involved fathers. And so, yeah, I was approached by the publishing company Wiley back in January of 2025 to write this book. And as I was sharing with you, kind of, in our pre-recording, one of the things that has been challenging for me, and I'll just be really honest with your audience here, is the fact that this is my book, so I wrote it. So everything that I've done in my career at National Fatherhood Initiative has been focused on promoting the organization. And
Mhm.
now I'm involved in promoting something that I wrote, which makes me a little uncomfortable, quite frankly. But I felt like the book was important enough to write because it's different than what you do see with fatherhood books. And that's not a criticism of other fatherhood books. I want to be really honest about that.
Of course.
So, what we do see that's out there in terms of fatherhood books is there are a lot of great books where the authors are talking about their own personal experience and their transformation, what they've learned, and sharing that. And those stories are really important. Some other books talk about a very specific aspect of fathering, such as maybe how to discipline your children effectively, or how to have the best relationship with a mother or other co-parent of your children. This book is very broad, it's very comprehensive, and it's very tool-based, meaning that when we do our work at National Fatherhood Initiative, we approach it from the perspective that fathering is a set of skills that you can learn, just like in any endeavor in life. And while there's certainly an emotional and spiritual component to fatherhood, and I talk about that in the book, it is about learning a set of skills that are linked to these 12 habits that can help you, just like in any area of life, build a skill set that helps you to be confident in being a father. So I've spent my career understanding what are the key factors that most influence whether a father's involved in the lives of his children. And confidence, or what researchers call self-efficacy, the belief in your ability to be a good father, has really kind of risen to the top of that list as being, if not the most important factor, one of the most important factors. So this is all about helping dads build confidence, because when most men come into fatherhood, they're clueless about how to be a good dad. And that's because we don't do a good job of raising our boys in this country to be good fathers, to be good parents. And so the book is designed to help them customize their approach to fatherhood. And that's kind of links back to something that I talked about earlier, which is that involved fatherhood looks different for every dad. So the book
Mm-hmm.
is written for any father, biological, step, or adoptive, um, living with his children, not living with his children, or if he's what we call a father figure or social father, he doesn't fit into those other categories, but he's stepping in to help raise children who, for whatever reason, don't have an involved or present father in their lives. And so fathers learn lots of quick tips for being a good father related to these particular habits, so that they they develop this intrinsic motivation for being the best father that they can be. And that's the other thing that we see from research, Bryan, is that it's critical that fathers have an internal drive to be a good father rather than something external to themselves. Because while external motivation can be effective initially in the short term, in order to be there for your children over the long term, you have to have intrinsic motivation. That's really
Mm-hmm.
important. And building habits is really the key to almost any successful endeavor, including
Right.
fatherhood. Um, so that these are things that dads will eventually be able to do basically in their sleep without having to think, and they'll just be able to do them over and over and over again.
Yeah. Um, First of all, that's awesome. I think it's great. I think I was taking a look at the habits. I think they're foundationally they make sense, and something that all of us dads can work on. And it's not. I've been a dad for my older son's 27 years, so 27 years old. So I've been a dad for 27 years, and I can tell you this, even to this day, I'm still learning stuff. You know, I still make mistakes as a dad. I still learn from those mistakes, and I still continue to learn new things to incorporate into my fatherhood journey. Because even though, as you know, even though my kids are older and adults and grown, my younger son is 24 and he's married, and my older son's about to get married. I mean, I'm going through that process now. But even though my wife and I are empty nesters, the bottom line is I'm still a dad, and they still talk to me. They still seek my help or guidance. And so now I find myself as more of a guidance counselor, and providing, from my experiences, providing advice when they ask. And So my fatherhood journey is maybe a little bit different from some of the dads that are watching this, but I love the fact that there's a way for us dads to build these habits to help us become better fathers, regardless of where you are. That's my point, regardless of where you are in your fatherhood journey. So
Exactly.
I think it's awesome. Um,
Yeah, and what you're doing, Bryan, with this podcast and with the mentoring that you're giving to your sons is reflected in that a final characteristic of stewardship, and the two habits there are pays it forward and engaging your community.
hmm,
So, once you develop these habits and you've used them and you've seen how successful that can help you be as a good father, that final piece is really reaching out and helping other dads and paying it forward. So you're doing it with this podcast, and you'll do it, as your boys, and you've probably already been doing this to an extent because you're a great role model. Is that you're going to be sharing your knowledge and your experience with them to help them to hopefully avoid, for example, any of the mistakes that you've made. Because,
hmm,
the fact is, as fathers, we're going to fail. And I make this
right.
point very early in the book. Look, you're going to screw up. Just face it. You want to screw up as few times as you possibly can, but you need to accept failure as a part of growing as a father, just like you do as a leader in business, for example.
Hmm.
You need to be able to take some risks, to be able to fail here and there, because that's how we learn. But by reflecting weekly on your actions, for example, you can think about, well, what did I do well this week? What did I not do well this week? And how can I make adjustments accordingly to leverage the things I'm doing really well as a dad, and either correct or, just avoid the mistakes that you're going to make inevitably.
Yeah. No, I think it's right. And one of the things that you had addressed earlier that I think is very true, and it's something that I've coached a lot of dads, and one of the things that I've talked about in coaching them is something that you kind of addressed earlier, and that is having an accountability partner and going to that accountability partner for advice on what you could do differently. And I think that some of the things that I've told dads that I've coached is one of the best things you can do is go to your kids, depending on their age, go to your kids and ask them, what can I do better as a dad for you? And you'll be amazed at how honest our kids will be with us. Now, I said age appropriate because if you have a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old and you ask them that question, they're going to ask you to give them ice cream for dinner instead of vegetables. So that's going to be an issue. But as they get older, you can ask that question. You can ask that question several times because they're going through different phases of their life as they grow up. You can ask that question several times. What can I do different as a dad to be a better dad to you? And the other part of that equation is not just asking your kids, but asking your spouse.
Mhm.
What going to my wife and saying, what can I do different in your eyes? What do you see that I could do different to be a better dad for our kids? And tell her to be honest and be ready for whatever those words are that come out of their mouths, because they can hit you in the gut, and you you need to take them to heart because they're telling you the truth. So having an accountability partner is one of the greatest things that you can do, I think, in my eyes, as a dad.
Yeah, well, and let me touch on something else that you just hit on, Brian, which is the importance of the co-parenting relationship. So,
Mm,
one of the 12 habits is called building a loving and caring co-parenting relationship. And I use loving from the perspective of just sort of broad-based loving acceptance of all people, because this book can help not only dads who are in the relationship with the mom or their other co-parent where that relationship is of good quality, but it's designed also to help dads who, for whatever reason, don't have a good relationship with their children's co-parent, to at least build that relationship to a point where it's amicable enough so that the children benefit. And that's what the dads learn when they read this book, is to look at that co-parenting relationship from their children's perspective, because that relationship is the blueprint for children's
mhm.
relationships. As they grow up, they're looking at that relationship between their co-parents, and they're using that to model their own
Yeah.
both personal and even professional relationships upon. So building that co-parenting relationship is a crucial part of being an effective father. It's not just about the dyadic relationship between a father and his children, but there's a family system that must be grown and strengthened in order for a dad to be the best dad that he can be.
Yeah. I think it's awesome. And I totally agree with what you just said. It's phenomenal because it's another area of coaching that I do with these dads is talking about their their partners, and how they treat each other, and how that's reflected in the eyes of their kids. Because, as you know, I have two boys, you have daughters. So when you go through that journey of how we treat our spouses, it goes both sides. So I'm trying to show my boys how a woman should be treated. As they were growing up, I'm trying to show them how a woman should be treated. And at the same time, my wife's trying to show them as a man how you should be treated by a woman. So trust me, we made our share of mistakes. We're not perfect parents by any means, and we're not perfect spouses either. But we tried at our best ability. We try to show our boys this is how a loving relationship works, and this is how you should be treated and how a woman should be treated when it comes to having a successful relationship. Um,
Yeah, and one of the reasons why it was a challenge for me to write the book, Brian, was it challenged me to step out of my comfort zone. In fact,
Mhm.
the final chapter in the book is entitled Stepping Out of Your Comfort Zone. So writing the book itself required me to be very transparent about some of the struggles that I've had in my relationship with my wife, Kayla, over the years. Because by sharing those struggles, my hope is that other fathers can avoid the same struggles. And each of those kind of vignettes from my own life in the book are tied specifically to each of the habits, how I've used the habits myself, or how I came to learn that those habits were important. Um, and so, that relationship with my wife, and you're absolutely right. My kids still, one in their 30s, one in their late 20s, still come to me for advice and guidance, and so that never stops. But fortunately, the our relationship as a parent and a child has grown into one where it's two adults interacting with each other now. And so, like you were saying with your boys, it's a lot about guidance and advice. You're not interacting with them in the same way that you did when they were younger.
Right. No, it's absolutely right. It's interesting. My younger son, as I said earlier, my youngest son is married. He and his wife just got married a couple months ago, and he and I had a golf day. He wanted to take me out golfing before they had gotten married, just the two of us. And so we went out golfing, and he asked me for marriage advice, and I was amazed that he was asking me for marriage advice, but I was proud that he was asking me for marriage advice because he wanted to. If I the reason I say that is because if I had a very unsuccessful marriage, my wife and I, uh, were not real successful in the way that we treated each other. I doubt that my son would have come to me and asked me that question or asked me questions when it comes to the relationship. So the fact that he did tells me that he saw a successful marriage between his parents, my wife and I, and now he wants to know how can he model that, and he's asking me these questions about marriage. And now my older son's about to get married. He'll be married in the next year. He just literally just proposed to his wife, his now fiance, yesterday. So the fact that they're about to be married, and how I would have never seen my older son getting married, number one, but he's in that journey now where he is, and it's exciting. And I know as a dad of older kids, the fact that they still come to me and ask me for advice or guidance is awesome. And like you, your daughters ask you for advice or guidance, you give it to them. They don't have to take it. They're grown adults. They can make those decisions however they see fit, but they can take the advice and run with it based on our own experiences as parents. So I think it's
Yeah,
awesome.
and yeah, and when they have their own children, they'll start coming to you for advice about parenting and
Yeah.
being a dad as well. It's amazing how that cycle continues, and that's what you want,
Hmm.
because what you're doing by becoming the most involved father that you can be is you're not just affecting the immediate generation, you're affecting future generations. So
Right.
a lot of the work that we do at National Fatherhood Initiative, and one reason why I wrote this book, Bryan, is because I want to see as many families that have had a cycle or a pattern of uninvolved fatherhood breaking that cycle for themselves, their children, and future generations.
Right. No, I totally agree. Um, well, let me ask you this before I let you go, Christopher. What's the best place for my listeners to look you up, maybe learn a little bit more about National Fatherhood Initiative, and also the best place for them to pick up the book as well?
Absolutely. So, in terms of National Fatherhood Initiative, go to fatherhood.org. It's real simple, fatherhood.org. And you can learn all that you would like about National Fatherhood Initiative and our work. About the book, The 24/7 Dad 12 Habits of Confident Fathers, go to confidentfathers.com, where you'll learn all about the book. You can read about the habits. In addition to the book itself, I've got a whole bunch of free resources that I created that can help dads go through the book. There's a worksheet because I ask dads a lot of questions. The book can also be used by professionals who mentor dads either one-on-one or in groups. So you could use it in your coaching, for example, to work with dads using that worksheet. There is the most comprehensive set of developmental charts that you'll find, developmental milestones for children ages birth to age 18. What makes them unique is it includes action steps that dads can take to help their children grow, healthy and well. And there are a number of other resources as well. And the most important thing, of course, is ordering the book. You can get it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, through Target, Walmart. All the major retailers are carrying it, and there's information at the bottom and links that will take you directly to the respective web pages for the book with each of those retailers. I chose to publish it in paperback so that it would be as affordable as possible. Kindle version will eventually come out, but for now it's in paperback. It's very reasonably priced at only $22. And if any of your listeners out there want to buy the book and gift it to several people, you can go directly through the publisher and get deep discounts on the book starting at only 5 copies. That's it. You get like 25% or more. Wow. Organizations can buy them, individuals can buy them. So I certainly encourage you to take advantage of those savings as well. And the final thing I'll say is half of the royalties from the sale of the book go to support the work of National Fatherhood Initiative. Oh, cool. So that was a part of the agreement that I made with the publisher, was that I wanted to make sure that some of the proceeds from the book go to support the organization's work.
That's awesome. Very cool. Well, I'll make sure that all those links are in the show notes. But really, really has been phenomenal conversation. It's been great to get to know you a little bit. I'm proud of what you're doing and what you represent, and excited to continue to watch your journey grow and develop and continue with National Fatherhood Initiative as well. I think it's awesome. But thank you very much, Chris, for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Take care, Brian. And take care, everybody. Have a great Father's Day.
Yeah, listen, guys, this has been another phenomenal episode of Dad Up. I want to thank my good friend Christopher Brown for being on the show. Listen, you want to pick up the book, you want to learn a little bit more about National Fatherhood Initiative, all those links are in the show notes below, so make sure you do that. I encourage you, pick up the book, practice what is in there, use the worksheets. I'm actually going to do it myself. Do I need it? I don't know, but I'm going to do it myself just so I can find ways that I can learn to be better as a dad, even with my kids being older. But you know what? Make sure you guys do that. They're in the show notes below, so please do that. And listen, if you are not yet following my show, please make sure you do that so you don't miss any of the awesome guests that I have on every single week. And as always, I look forward to seeing you all on the next episode of Dad Up. Wow, another amazing episode in the books. So much was shared, and I'm truly grateful my guest was able to pour into you to help you elevate your dad game and really dad up. Make sure you bang that subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode. And while you're here, please don't forget to leave me a rating and a review. I always appreciate the feedback. And one last thing, don't forget, your role as a dad is one of the most important roles you have. So if you need a little help or have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me on my website at daduptribe.com or at my Instagram page at Dad Up Podcast. Until next time, everyone, Dad Up.